Welcome to the Sip and Scale podcast, where we talk about everything business, entrepreneurship, and startups. My name is Blendi Muriqi. I'm the CEO and founder of Delegate.co. Each week, you'll join us as we talk with industry experts and business owners, sharing actionable insights to drive your business forward. So grab your favorite beverage and let's sip our way to success. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Sip and Scale podcast. On this episode, I'm delighted to welcome Alex Shapiro. Alex is the CEO and founder of CanMonkey, the first vacation rental trash solutions company to provide can-to-curb concierge services. With a fee starting at $49 a month, his company ensures that trash and recycling cans are taken out to the curb and put back weekly to their original locations. With time-stamped photos, you never have to worry about where your property's trash cans are located. Now, I brought Alex on this pod because the growth of his company has been insane over the last few years. And I want to really pick his brain about how he started from just an idea to scaling the business in the early days to now being a nationwide service for short-term rentals and beyond. So welcome to the pod, Alex. It's a pleasure to have you on.
I really appreciate that introduction. I want to make sure I keep that recording forever because that was phenomenal. So thank you for that. And appreciate being on here and talking about everything CanMonkey related, delegation, and grow a business.
Definitely. So let's start with how you started. We all have, as founders and CEOs, we all have this, this story of something happened one day and a light bulb flashed and you were like, okay, I want to start a company. And in this situation, you're in the short-term rental space. How exactly did you start CanMonkey? How did the idea come to fruition?
Honestly, this is more like an unorthodox way of the business maybe started, for the short-term rental, but ultimately I'm actually the co-founder. My business partner, Mark Zagori, he's the founder of CanMonkey. And his thought process was he didn't like taking his own trash can to the curb and back. He would ask his son to do it. His son wouldn't do it. And he noticed some of his neighbors leaving him out a day too long and was thinking, look, if I don't like doing it, they don't like doing it. Maybe I can get some neighbors around his neighborhood and start it with homeowner. And started the business like anyone would start a business, got PR, got a car, wrapped it with all the logos on there, did the website, did everything right by the book of what you do on growing a business. But I think in that time, starting a brand new concierge can-to-curb service, which no one had heard, it didn't really take off initially like how he thought it would. The first signups over the first year were mainly, word of mouth and, from like friends and family. And they did love the service. And so it was showing proof of concept. And it wasn't until, a property manager had reached out and said, hey, they had some properties and it went almost overnight, doubled the business. And then that's where my background was in title and escrow. I was working in the real estate industry and I was working with a lot of investors. So a lot of my investors in the Phoenix market at that time in 2017, 2018, diversifying their portfolio, getting out of some long-term rentals and going into these STRs, short-term rentals. And so I had, a light bulb went off, and because one day at lunch, one of my clients at the time was talking about how his STRs had some trash can issues. And I said, I have a buddy that has a company that can do that for you. And he's like, I would pay $100 a month for that service. And I was like, oh my gosh, because I know my buddy wasn't charging that much. I was like, all right, let me see what I can do. And maybe I'd make some money in the middle. And so I remember going to my business partner now and saying, hey, I think you have to go after STRs, And so it was one of those things that we kind of pivoted, but still it was like a side hustle. It was, my business partner was taking the actual trash cans to the curb. I was more of the sales and marketing. I was just kind of getting the name out there, my clientele, my people. And we had some traction in Arizona. 2019, had some more traction. We went into 2020 and the pandemic happened. And we had just right before the pandemic happened, had gotten a big portfolio of properties. And so we're on this high. And then right when March happened, the world shut down, we lost those properties and we're done for. But ultimately, everyone kind of got into short-term rentals during the pandemic. And it was a really good for us in the trajectory of showing us that this was a need, not just for the short-term rental, but also for the homeowners, which, Mark originally thought because they were scared of, the virus and whatnot. So it got us to get some people to try us out. And we started expanding into another market. And I lost my job in corporate America. And I went all in CanMonkey during May 2020. And we kind of grew it out a little bit with kids that we knew in college and tried some new things out.
When was that moment where you guys realized, okay, we need to start hiring? And what was, because hiring people, especially for some sort of ground operation, that is probably one of the most difficult things any business can do, especially in this space, in the short-term rental space. And for something as necessary as trash, how did you go about actually hiring and ensuring that people are actually coming to work, that they're doing a quality job? Because you're not there babysitting them, right? If they're leaving a can, like which I've seen with a lot of garbage companies where they don't even care, they'll just throw the can to the side, not place it properly. How did you build a system in the beginning that ensures that quality? Inevitably, if you're trying to scale that up nationwide, you need to have a process and a system in place.
Essentially, when we started it out, it was, like I said, it was Mark doing the routes and it was me doing the sales. So when Mark was doing the routes, he was able to see like what idiosyncrasies would pop up. If we were going to the garage, maybe the garage code didn't work. If you were going behind a gate lock, maybe the padlock was going to be, a little bit too difficult. So like there are some things that we learned. So then when we would eventually got to, over 100 properties, we got to 200 properties. Mark can't do all those himself. So then we had to look at how are we going to outsource it? So let's build a route. At first, he's just doing everything at once. Then we build out a route. So if we had 50 properties, how do we do this? And so we had to like play around with like, what's the magic number of properties per hour, per 2 hours? How long do can runners want to work for? Do they want to take cans out for 8 hours a day? Do they want to just do it for 2 hours? So that was like a long time of trial and error of figuring out what that magic formula was. And that was like over 3 or 4 years. Essentially, when we went from Mark not doing it to someone else, we had to put some implementation together. And so this is where we really went from like a side hustle to more of like a startup. Because now we're like, okay, we're outsourcing to someone else. How do we trust them? We need photos. Okay, how are we going to collect the photos? Okay, let's have them take it so on their phone. Okay, where are they going to store it at? Let's put it in Slack Messenger. Okay, what app are we going to give them to run the routes? Because at first it was just like we knew the property, so we memorized it. Or like we'd put the addresses in a text message and send it to ourselves.
Yeah.
Like we can't send text messages, addresses in a text message and scale this business. So like now we have to have like automation and so then we're like, let's find a route app out there. So we found like a courier route out there, but it wasn't like really for our business. So we had to find the right one that fit more like our business, because like there's no business out there that's taking trash cans to the curb and back. There's like pool routes, there's like pest control, but there's no like, then you could get like a courier, but a courier could be like a one-time service. Like we're going to the same property 4 times a week, 16 times a month, every Monday, Tuesday, every Thursday, Friday. Like there's no app that we could put into scheduling that and then send it out to someone to get that as a route pusher, to accept it, to have it on, on app. Like we had nothing like that. So we had to say, okay, we can't scale a business with people downloading the app on like Facebook Messenger, because that looks kind of sketch. Like, wait, is this even real? Then they had to like download the Slack app. Then they had to download this other app. Then they had to, but that's what's crazy about when we look back on it. It's like, I can't believe we scaled the business. When we had to make people do the things they had to do and they still did it, it's like, I can't believe it.
That just goes to show you how painful it is to be in the business that you're in, the problem itself, how painful it is. Because if people are willing to go and have that friction to get to the end result of having, an empty trash can, and they had to go through all those steps, then it means that you've got a really good problem on your hands.
And that's a good point. And that's what we now, like in retrospect, you're right. Like that's what we knew that we were creating. We were creating not just an opportunity for hosts and owners to get their property trash day automated. Like, no, that wasn't just the only thing we were doing. What we were also doing is providing opportunities for individuals to make money on the side. And that's what the can runners really became. It became a double-sided marketplace. So then we started looking at it as like, wow, we have 2 sets of clients. We have the clients that pay us every month for the service to be done. And then we have the clients that we pay to make sure this job gets done. So now how do we take care of those clients? Because those are your clients. You got to take care of your clients, right? So we got to take care of our clients. So how do we take care of these can runners to make sure they do a good job? Because at the end of the day, it's trash cans. It's nothing sexy about it. It's something really great about it. But how do we make it really fun and entertaining and enough where they're going to come and take trash cans to the curb and back, an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours a day? Like, how do we do that and scale? And so it was really like having them close to us in the beginning. Like in the beginning, my brother is 10 years younger than me, and he was a fraternity president. And also growing a business, a lot of things just work out perfectly. Like everyone says that, it's kind of cliche, but like things just kind of work out sometimes. Like luckily my brother was a fraternity president at ASU. And I was like, I need some guys to take some trash cans to the curb. And he's like, I got some frat bros. And I was like, okay. So then we thought, you know what? We figured it out. We're going to reach out to every frat bros in the whole country, and we're going to figure out the can runner problem. And it was great, and it was working, and we're geniuses. And then May came around in graduation, and they all left. And we're like, oh, shit.
You didn't
This is
think
not a
about
good
that, right?
solution. We didn't think about that. So then we're like, oh my God, we're scrambling. So, but that helped us understand, like, what do you guys like about it? Because we would have meetings with them all the time because they would come to the office, we'd give them some food for like pizza. You know, they're my brother's friends. Like, we were lucky to have that situation. Now looking back on it, hey, what do you guys like? What do you guys not like? What was bad about it? What was good about it? You know, like, what would you like better? And we could really gear it off them, you know, and then we were trying to, so then that's really how we started growing in the Phoenix market. And then when we had this conversation where it's like, say we're in Scottsdale, but we're doing routes in Peoria, and that's like 40 miles away. And I'd be like, look, we're getting a route done in Peoria, which we're not going to and seeing. So what's the difference if we're doing that in Peoria if we're not doing it in Austin, Texas? Like, and so then we started saying, okay, let's try to get this next market, our area. So like worst case scenario, if someone doesn't show up, I'll drive 40 minutes and do it, right? Like that. But I can't do that in Texas. I can't do that in Nashville. So we'd always go to it like, that's not a solution. Like, we have to figure it out. Like, I can't go save the day all the time. So like, let's figure out what this looks like. So then you just start doing things in trial and error. And then we say, okay, that's the third city that we've done in Arizona that we haven't even been at. Let's try in Park City. Let's try in Austin. We tried in Austin. It didn't work out well at first. We failed. We were embarrassed. We got another opportunity in Park City. We took all that learning lessons that we just failed at. They weren't a failure. It was a learning lesson. And then we applied that Park City. It worked. We went back to Austin, started again. Okay, now let's go to this market.
What were those things that we don't call them failures? They're learning lessons, but what were those learning lessons that you had in Austin, for example, when you're scaling outside of what is your market, your home market, that you learned and then applied to out of state markets that eventually, exploded your growth?
This goes against the delegation, but I learned that I gave the responsibilities to someone that had no idea what they were doing. And I was thinking that I'm growing this business and I have someone not under me, but someone that like, this is their job now. And I'm also giving them responsibilities to something that like we're creating ourselves. Like no one knows what we're doing because we're doing it, so that first time of going to a new market, I should have been way more involved in. I should have known way more what was going on.
And know who the people are that are actually, if you don't have an intimate knowledge of the people that you're working with and you don't know what their work ethic is, you don't know what the issues that they have on the ground are, you're basically outsourcing the growth of your business to, an outside party. So in that sense, like you have to figure out, do these people to execute?
Yeah, and you're 1,000,000% right. In this situation, this person was like our first hire within CanMonkey, like as an employee. And so that was where I learned that like that responsibility that I gave them, like I shouldn't have done that first. Like I should have learned it as well. So when we failed, I was like, look, the next market we go into, maybe we should fly there and try it out ourselves and learn. And this is what I was kind of telling you before. It's like, I didn't really know the landscaping. So like when someone's like Austin, Texas, I said, oh, okay. Like, so like I should have done a little bit more due diligence. Like give me all the I should have saw the property addresses. I should have saw, because like Austin, Texas could be Round Rock. It could be Dripping Springs. It could be downtown Austin. And those are all like 20 miles. Like it's not like how we were thinking about here. So when we went to Park City afterwards and I flew there, I was like, oh, we can see how it is. Oh, this is kind of hard. Like, oh, maybe we should, offer a little bit more money. And so then we had an opportunity to go back to Austin. I flew out there again and I was like, okay, now we're learning what to do. We're learning how it works. And then ultimately I was like, okay, I can't fly out to every market, so then like you can't do that. So then we're like, okay, the next one, let's do it how we've been doing it. And so then we applied what we were doing in the Phoenix market. Then what we like got some people on the ground that like were good. And then we started learning this. Ultimately didn't really take off until we built our own application. And so now we're on the Apple Store and Google Play. We have our own technology, our own API, our own everything. And that was ultimately what happened with our business that really made the trajectory even better, because we were so limited on like still using those 4 different applications. And so that's where now, like, once again, they're both our clients. So we wanted to make sure that our can runners were having an easier job. And now for them to download the CanMonkey app, and then it's all right there. It's even easier. Now they go in the Apple Store, Google Play, and download it. They could be looking at other apps like Grubhub or Instacart, and we pop up. So we're now competing with these billion-dollar companies when we're just a bootstrap company that like hasn't even raised $1 million. So it's like when I look at it, like we just reinvested our money for like the first 4 years. Like all the money that we made went right back into the business. All because we knew that we wanted to do this. We had to scale it. We had to have technology. We're also first company to do what we're doing right now. So people are like, let's wait till you get to 1,000 properties. Let's wait till you get to, 1,500. Let's wait till you get to $1 million in revenue. It's always like this, let's wait. And so if anything, it motivated us more to be like, all right, we're going to figure this out ourselves. Like no one's going to come here and figure it out. Like everyone wants to see us do what we say we're going to do. And that's what, now that we came through it on the other end, it's like amazing where we're at, because when we look at where we're at now, it feels like we just got started. It feels like our business is just like we just finally unpackaged it. And ultimately it's like we have this whole runway of now really, adding the growth that we see that we're able to attain. And so 2 years ago, if someone blasted us on like on national television, like we wouldn't have been ready. There's been no way we can scale. Like we wouldn't have the right systems and process, and it would have been a failure, because ultimately taking the trash can to the curb and back, it's pretty easy, but it's not. There's a lot of variables, especially in the Airbnb industry, and especially when there's guests that unfortunately are trying to get freebies. So for us, our photos have saved us from erroneous fines, because we get told things where it's like a client will call us and they'll say, you guys didn't show up last week. And I'm like, oh, that doesn't sound like us. Like, let me look into it. And they'll like, yeah, the guests are there right now and said, the trash can's full. And I'm like looking at their date. I'm like, oh, trash day's Thursday, right? They're like, yeah. I'm like, oh, well, we're actually took the can to the curb last night and it's at the curb right now. They're like, oh, maybe that's why it's full. Okay. Sometimes like we don't get blamed, but like they just take what the guest tells them. They just take what the cleaner says and they take it for that's what it is. So the guest maybe said the trash can's full, and then they take it as CanMonkey didn't show up. And it's like, really, it's getting emptied right now. So it's like, no, we're doing everything right. Okay, well, why is it so full? Did your guest put trash in it maybe? Yeah, that's true. That's possible. Yeah, we had, the cleaners come on Tuesday. Maybe the cleaners put, trash in on Tuesday, and that's why it's full now. Oh, okay, thank you. You're welcome. So it's really just like, if we didn't have those photos though, and we didn't have the evidence of the timestamp photos and all this stuff, it now just goes to he said, she said. And that's where I don't like to be in that situation. I like to have, and if we're wrong, we're wrong. And it's like, hey, you're right. We didn't do it. Let me take care of this. I'll take care of on-demand trash removal for free. Your cans will be empty. It's like, we always ensure your cans will be empty, whether the city empties them for you or we do it because we made a mistake. Because if I made a mistake, I would empty that out for you for free.
On our end here at Delegate, we found a very interesting niche in the short-term rental space where a lot of communities across the country, they have ordinances on how many cars can be in the driveway. And that's something that there's software solutions to prevent parties, but there's no service out there that is monitoring driveways to ensure that these people aren't they're getting fined. So what we started doing was basically providing like overnight monitoring of surveillance cameras to these homeowners and property management companies, because they were spending thousands of dollars a year on fines because someone put a fifth or sixth car in the driveway or they parked in the grass. So in the same sense, like that's another pain point that you're really hitting on, is being able to reduce the likelihood of fines to these property management companies.
You brought up a good point. When our can runners take photos of the can at the curb, sometimes they'll get the whole house, and our clients have access to their client dashboard. Yeah. And so some don't even know that they have access to it. Some look at it every day, and had someone call me once and say, whose car's in my garage, or whose car's in my driveway? And I was like, what? Like, last time you were there was this. I was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. I was like, I don't know. They're like, yeah, on this date at this time, there's a driveway or car. Was that yours? I was like, I don't think it was, but I'll ask. Come in handy where I think some of our hosts and owners that live in other states, I think they like the photos. They can see a photo of their property, make sure the cans are at the curb. They can make sure they're back and they can see a picture of the side of the house. We send them pictures if there's excess trash. There's trash bags on the ground. If there's anything that we see wrong, we send them real-time notifications of any issues. There was actually a time that we sent them an issue because there was water coming out of their garage.
Did situations like that then inspire you guys to say, wait, why are we limiting ourselves to just trash? We're there where we have eyes on the ground and we have a route. What else can we do to monetize the relationship that we have with our clients and provide them excess value?
Yeah, when the pandemic happened, actually, and we lost that large portfolio of properties, and we were kind of like, for like 2 weeks or 3 weeks. So it wasn't a long time, but it was enough to be like, we're done for, and it was enough to like kind of do some reflection of like, okay, what are we gonna do? World's shutting down, everything was shut down. And while I was still, whatever I was doing, I think my family and I would just drive like 20 miles a day just to get it, because I had 3 kids. They were all young during the pandemic, and it was like nothing to do. So we would just drive in the morning when they woke up. I would always see these pool cars, like pool trucks. And I was like, we should start a pool company. We have property owners. We already have the property addresses. And if they don't want the trash, like they still need pools cleaned. And so we started CanMonkey, and that was, it was a great concept for us. It was great to get our feet wet, literally. There's another, business venture. And when we learn from it as well, it's like something happened we get clients from CanMonkey that would sign up on CanMonkey, and then something would happen with like a trash related issue. And they'd be like, CanMonkey sucks. I'm like, whoa, this is trash CanMonkey. What are you talking about CanMonkey for? Or like, we'd be talking about a CanMonkey client, and they're like, my pool's so dirty. Why is CanMonkey doing this? Like, it's not Can. So we're like, okay, maybe we shouldn't have a monkey. We were thinking like we'll have trash monkey or like junk monkey, grass monkey, tree monkey. We're thinking about all these monkey names that we'll have along CanMonkey per se, and that was like kind of a thought process. But then like monkey's expensive to have like in like a website, and it's like, so like that's not smart. We're not doing that anymore. But from that, it showed us like, okay, we're at a property, we already have the route, we already have this information on the clients, we already know if they're not here locally, if they're the properties, whatever. So we've done inspections, we've done some other things for our clients that they've asked us for, like, hey, can you guys do inspections? Can you do post or pre-inspections? Can you just make sure that the barbecue's clean? Can you make sure that the propane tanks are full? Can you refill them if they're so then it's like, okay, if that person has that issue, who else has that issue? So then we started like can cleaning and on-demand trash removal. If we made a mistake, I had to pay someone to go remove the trash. But then also, it's like if the city comes on Thursday to empty your trash cans out, and you have guests checking out on Sunday with new guests checking in on Sunday, what are you going to do with that trash? You need to remove it. So that's where we now utilize our dashboard or even a single page website where a client can set in a request. And if not the same day, the next day, come and empty the trash cans. But we know that CanMonkeys are one thing. It's a differentiator, from everything else. Anyone can start a pool company. Anyone can start a junk removal company. Anyone can start can-to-curb service. But that's our one thing right now. And so once we do that really well and take care of our clients, what we found from CanMonkey is that they'll trust the brand, they'll trust our recommendation, they'll trust that we say, hey, you should use this company, they do it.
What I've realized looking at a lot of software solutions, they find like, Guesty is a good example of this, where they started out as just a standard property management software. And then as they grew, they saw all of these ancillary opportunities in insurance, like damage coverage, even like the marketing aspect of it, building out a website. And this is the first time I'm seeing that dynamic at play in a service-based business, because there's so many opportunities for you guys. If you have a clientele that really trusts you and sees that the quality of work is great on the trash collection side, they're going to give you the chance to do that with a ton of other aspects of their operation. How has your team changed in terms of sales? Because I can imagine in the beginning, you were really worried you were heavily involved in the biz dev, and it's just you. In the beginning, when you're starting a company, you're taking all the sales calls, you're sending out all the emails, you're putting out the marketing material. But then as you grow, you realize, wow, I'm only constrained to, 24 hours a day. How can I start leveraging human capital to get my business to the next level? So talk me a little bit through how that occurred for you and the realization that you had, like, okay, we can hire people on the ground. We can partner with vendors on the ground to get this job done. But I have to start hiring on the back end to really make sales and bring business into the company.
No, you're 1,000,000% right. And it's been very difficult on the sales and marketing side of it because once again, we're the ones that started. And I don't mean that like egotistical or anything. It's like, it's the truth. Like I can't look at another company right now and say, look at that marketing, look at that. Any marketing you see done with CanMonkey, I'm doing still. And I'm not a marketing guy. I'm just someone that is persistent and consistent. And my goal is to not let my team down internally. And I need to make sure that people know that CanMonkeys exist, because that's our biggest issue, is that people don't know the service exists. So I don't go a day without posting on LinkedIn. I don't stop. I don't. So it's like, and I know how much we've grown. And I have a James on my team, and a lot of people know him. He's my right-hand guy. He helps field, phone calls, but a lot of it is organic growth. We're over actively 5,000 properties on the subscription, service right now. And I've had some sales guys, but like it's been like the effort of getting the brand out there, going to these conferences, getting on podcasts. A lot of it was me wearing that hat in the beginning, like you said. And I think a lot of the continued growth has been us doing a good job continuously, us having a good name in the industry, us doing what we say we're going to do, not just once or twice, but like 16 times a month. We're at a property maybe 160 times a year, 200 times a year. We're going to make mistakes, but it's like, how do we rectify those mistakes? How quick are we to rectify them? How quick are we to say, hey, look, we made a mistake and we're going to make it right? That's what the difference is with us, is that we underpromise and overdeliver. And now Alex, it's now CanMonkey has its own brand. And that's what's really cool about the growth that we're in right now. So that's where we're really have this runway where everything's built out. Like we have this rocket ship and all we need is fuel. And so like now if like Elon Musk or someone like really famous said like, you got to try CanMonkey, and everyone just knew about it, whatever reasons, it's like, I wouldn't be scared. I mean, obviously it'd be, hire new people internally and make sure, but like at the same time, I wouldn't be scared because like the technology we have, like everything's built out for the most part. Are we going to have growing pains? Absolutely. Are we going to make mistakes while we grow from like 5,000 to 25,000? Of course. That's what's also been so great about the growth has been, it's been very methodical and almost very luckily, like we've grown the way we've grown because I never wanted to be too big. I never wanted that huge attention because I would be afraid if we got 1,000 properties overnight and someone said, here you go, we wouldn't be able to do it. Like that's how we were before. Now I'm like, try us. Like threaten me with a good time and let's add 1,000 properties on. Like let's break our systems. I have people now in place. And even though we're a small, lean team, we're very efficient and very effective. And that's where I would want to keep pushing our boundaries. And as much as I wouldn't say we're a relaxed company, but like, look, we're like a startup still. We're a technology company. My business partner and I are not technology guys. We're not software guys. This is all new to us. He had the thought process. I had the delusionally optimistic thinking that like we could take this everywhere, and he did too, but like now we're actually doing it.
When we're starting a business, there's certain debts that we have in our skill set. So like for me, my debt was always in sales and marketing because I was an operations guy, and I had to flex that muscle. I had to train that muscle. Now that you guys you're not just, a service-based business that does manual grunt work, you're a technology company. What has been your approach to really growing that muscle? Has it been bringing in the right people into your team that has that background? Has it been just kind of going through the motions and figuring out how to actually launch an app or launch a tech platform that can manage this whole operation? Talk me through how that transition occurred.
To answer this question, there's a story about Henry Ford, and someone was interviewing him and saying like, how do you know how to build a car? You don't know anything about cars. And he's like, turned his phone around. He goes, I can push number 8 and call the guy who knows about the radiator. Push number 2 and call the guy about, the top, like, and his point was like he had a solid team around him. And when we built this business, my business partner is the complete opposite of me. He is like the operations, dot the I's, cross the T's, and I'm more like, we'll figure it out later. And you need a little bit of both of those. You can't have someone that's like so like stuck in like the thought process of it. You kind of need someone to just kind of get the ball rolling and then figure that stuff later. And so then when we were growing, like I told you earlier, we just got really lucky. I don't need to know all about the KPIs because I know enough, but if you really want to know, here's Mark. Like I can't wear every hat. And that's where the delegation comes in, where luckily I can delegate with partners or a CTO, someone that maybe I bring up into the company because like, I have debt, like you're saying, and he has, the equity. So it's like, hey, you help in this and, build that relationship if you can and play off each other's weaknesses and strengths. Then, when you're delegating to people not under you, but to under you, it's like, okay, what are your weaknesses? Be self-aware. Okay, I'm not good at doing these things. Okay, find someone that's good at doing these things.
Would you say that like core competency, it shifts as the business grows? And I'll give you an example. Like for me, my core competency has had to shift from operations to branding and marketing. And it's something that I did not realize that I had to do, but I got good at it. And then all of a sudden I realized, okay, I'm going to have someone else that I know can do a good job and handle operations. And I'm going to focus on strategy, on building the business up, on hiring key people to the company to grow our revenue.
I totally agree. And that's where I'm at too. And it's also like, we're in this, like still the scrappy stage in our business where it's like, ideally I would love to hire a marketing person. Like I would love to hire someone and be like, look, I don't want to do this anymore. Take it away and like scale it. It's also like when we meet with people that, could maybe provide that, it's the cost is we can't afford it right now. Or it's like our market, like we're charging $49. So it's like, well, I'm gonna have to get back on this. I need you to get me 10,000 properties, for what you're asking for in a salary. Can you work with something else? And it's like, no. So like, it's also finding the person that sees your vision, that believes what you believe, and it ultimately aligns. Like your goals have to align. My business partner took care of like the count. He took care of things, but like in my aspect, I had like the sales, the marketing. I was running routes at one time. I was managing the can runners. I was hiring the can runners at one time. I remember counting like 11 hats I was wearing, and I'm still probably wearing like 3 or 4 hats right now, or 5, but at the same time, it's like I like it. I like still being in tune. I still like knowing what's going on. I like no news is good news is not really a good thing. Like I like hearing there's issues, because then when there's problems, you can come up with solutions. And that's something that I feel that I got asked this question the other day. It's like would you go back in time and ask for money in the beginning, or raise capital sooner? And it's like, just because you ask for capital doesn't mean you're going to get it in the first place. But in the second place, it's like, even if I had capital, say we just had like $2 million to work with in the very beginning, I don't think we've been better off. I think that the fact that we had to be scrappy, that I had to take on other jobs in other industries to pay my bills for my family, to make sure that CanMonkey kept succeed. Like when I really look back on all this, it's like really like ridiculous, and it's like I was really delusional about it. But like you have to be, like when you hear all these stories about all these people that do something, like they all were at one point were like in that same kind of mindset.
How have you dealt with customer service? Because you have a lot of customers that will either call you, communicate with you. Do you have like a team that does the customer service? Have you looked into outsourcing that overseas? What is that format like currently?
We've experimented. We had someone hired fully for it at times. We've had outsourced it to virtual assistants. I think now ultimately with our technology and our application, it's getting even easier to manage what is going on when there's issues that are alerted. We have automations put in where there's emails or SMS going out to the client to notify them of an issue. We're also getting issues. Like I said, we had those photos that are coming in timestamped with geolocations. We're getting maybe like 50 calls a month, and still out of those 50 calls, maybe it's 65, maybe a holiday month, but still out of those 65 calls, maybe even half of those are maybe like actual issues. It could be like, hey, my cleaner said, my guest said, and they're just looking for validation that it was taken out. And it's like, oh yeah, hey, you have access to client dashboard. I know, but can you just tell me? Sure. So they're calling in about that. Or maybe it was an issue. Maybe it was like actually a new can runner took the neighbor's can out by accident. Or maybe they took out only one trash can and they should have took out 2. Let us look into that. And so we have like our map, I guess, our markets. We have it like kind of broken out into like groups or zones. So we have humans internally that manage those zones and making sure that the routes are being assigned. And once again, a lot of this is just automation. Text messages going out the night before, the morning of, hey. So we have 900 routes a week that we're doing right now, 900 across the nation. And out of 900, there might be like 10 routes. So out of those 10 routes, we're looking at, making sure that and they're probably new routes. It's probably a new market. It's probably maybe something happened, maybe like a holiday, in Columbus, Ohio. Every time there's a holiday, some properties move ahead. All properties will move ahead for the holiday. Some move back. Some stay that way now until the next holiday. And it's like, whoa. So how do you make an automation for that? We now have to make an automation for one market out of 100 markets, because that one market has a different trash. And not all the market, individual properties in the market, because they have different one has waste management and one has. That's never in a thought process that ever came in my mind. I never even knew there was other waste management companies except Waste Management. I have one real guy that builds our software, so it's like, am I going to have him take time away from building the actual application to go now do this? And now it's like, okay, manually when the holiday comes up, we have to go do these so it's like, there's some things that we could do better, but there's also things like we're a scrappy startup. There's a lot of things that I would love to have, but at the same time, I also love that, I'm still in the muck of it. I love that, we're still getting better every day.
Were they virtual assistants here in the States or overseas?
They were overseas, and we had an individual that implemented the whole process. He had used at another company. It was like, hey, this is going to better your company and you should be outsourcing. And it made a lot of sense. They were looking at customer service. They were looking at billing, accounting, some of the things that are mundane that maybe going through our Zendesk. Maybe that's what it was. Emails, making sure that, I think that's what it was. Making sure that the emails were caught up with and making sure any issues that were coming in through our CAN support were addressed or whatever it was, or delegated to the right person. And that was probably last June. So we just celebrated a year of that. Credit card cards, expire. Right.
Yeah.
And there's some things that they can just fix themselves, or, take this property off routes, or take this property off billing, or, whatever, just the little things. And so that's still nice when we have that. But when it came down to the customer service, that experience, it was like I never used them before. I've never had virtual assistants before. So I just kind of was like, not grandfathered, but it was just kind of like, hey, this is what it is. And it's like, okay, cool. And it's like, they would join us on our meetings at 2 p.m. in our time, but clearly, no, it's like midnight their time. They're like in the dark, and, and then it's like sometimes when the issues came up on like the support, they didn't understand our business. They didn't understand maybe the urgency. They didn't understand really what, or they would respond with what they were supposed to respond, but it's just like maybe out of context. And it's like, and so there's things like, okay, we're still a startup company. We don't have that many issues. Make sure, like, I don't want to piss people off, I don't want to give them more of a reason to piss them off. It's their fault, the VA, because they don't know the context of what they're speaking. They are sending a photo, but the photo is wrong. We went to the wrong property, but they don't understand what the client's saying when they're saying, that's not my trash can. And it's like, well, we took the can to the curb. You took the wrong can to the curb. So it's just like little things like that where it just created more issues. And it was like, look, I'd rather just take that back in house, and I want to know what's going on. I want to know what the issues are. Why did we take the neighbor's can to the curb? It's a new can runner. Okay, who trained that can runner? Like, I still wanted to be a part of that. So we brought someone in that was trying to help us scale, and I wasn't ready to. Not that I wasn't ready to scale. Like, we weren't ready to scale.
One of the biggest, I think, constraints is when you're bringing on multiple people, you have to have a really solid SOP for these edge cases, because that's where they come in handy. When you have all these different situations, you need to be able to train these people, dedicate a lot of time to training them and onboarding them. Because if someone comes to you and says, hey, we're going to scale your business and give you 10 team members and they're going to take care of all your customer service, it doesn't happen that way. When we go to property management companies, we give them skilled virtual assistants that they have a background in the short-term rental space. But if we don't have a knowledge base for them, if we don't have SOPs for them, then they're not going to be, the best employees that they can be. And so that's a realization that I've had, is when we go talk to property managers, we ask them like, okay, do you have your list of items already set for these situations? Because we want that virtual assistant to be able to think like you. And if that's not in place at that moment, then there's going to be mistakes and angry customers.
I agree. And that was an experience we had. And even though we had macros and we had, things built out for them, and in the scenarios, we've seen it all.
Yeah.
Even though when you lay it all out in our experience, and once again, I didn't sit in the process. I didn't hire them. I didn't create the SOP. I just know that we had everything in place. It was just one of those things. It didn't work out for us, and the customer service part of it for our business right now. I think there's things in the customer service that it could definitely help with, in our business.
When I first started, when you first start a business, I think that your main goal is to make the person happy. So you take opportunities to do things that you wouldn't normally do, because you're trying to build that client base up. And then over time, you realize as you scale the business that if you don't set expectations of the service that's being delivered to the customer, there's going to be situations where they're not happy because they're not getting what they expect. I've made it a point to our customer success manager, when we're onboarding a new client, set expectations of what you're going to get from a service like ours. What are you not going to get from a service like ours? At that point, it's a lot easier for the client to absorb that information and say, okay, I can't be mad at this, because this is what they told me to expect when we started this relationship.
You make a really solid point. I literally just had a conversation with someone yesterday about their expectations of what we did and what they actually are. And they were like, well, that's not what I thought you guys did. And I was like, maybe we should part ways then, because I don't want to give you a service that you're not happy with, and I can't give you what you're looking for, And
I'm sure it happens in your business where there's a certain percentage of clientele that they have expectations that don't align with what your business offers. If you incorporated that at onboarding, when they get on the app, where you're like, this is what we do, this is what we don't do. In a way, it's like you're setting the parameters of the relationship, but then they can't complain about stuff that happens outside of what you offer.
That's a very good point. I feel like you're in a recent meeting of ours, because we're going to start offering something along those lines of different tiers of our service, like a pro, basic, a plus, to kind of really show what you get in totality of it all, right? I don't think sometimes people understand what they're really getting. And I think right now, if you look at CanMonkey and you say, for $49 a month, we'll go to your property day before and day after, take the can to the curb and back. With that, you'll get an application, a dashboard, timestamp photos, saved in your service history. You get basically 24/7 access to a person if you ever need anything checked on, a free on-demand trash removal if we ever make a mistake, and we'll be at your property 16 times a month, and it's going to cost you $600 a year. And the property that you're using it for generates $8,000 a month on average. So when you really break it down, what you said earlier about all the, so we want to show people, like to your point earlier, what you told me about, you're the beginning, you're the intern of the company, you had to do all like the grunt work. It's not grunt work. It's like the vital part of the business, that has to be done. So it's like, if people consider us the grunt work and they're like, look, what am I getting from CanMonkey? I give them 10 properties a month, $500 a month I'm paying. What am I getting? We want to show them on the dashboard that, look, out of your 10 properties, we're saving you 80 stops, every quarter, or whatever the number comes out to, what those 160 stops a quarter, all these stops that you're doing, all this time that you're traveling, like all this, and they like really would break it down like, oh, wow, that's actually awesome. Like, thank you. And I think right now, not that they take us for granted or anything, it's just more of like, what are they doing for me? Or they'll say like, that property has been vacant for 3 weeks. I didn't need you to service it. It's like, well, we have. It's like, we still went. We didn't know. You didn't tell us. Like, the service was still done. It's like, I get from your point of view, like it didn't need to be done, but at the same time, you've had it looks like it's been occupied or vacant or occupied. It doesn't look like it's been sitting vacant. It doesn't look like it's no one's there. You're probably keeping people away, like intruders or people trying to maybe break in. It's like, there's some people that really like that service. They like having the photos of the house and seeing like everything's good and the landscapers came, the house looks nice and the bushes look like, some people appreciate that. And so if you don't appreciate that, then get the CanMonkey Basic. But if you want the photos and you want the timestamp, the geolocation, that's the Pro. And if you want the Plus, you're gonna get the free on demand as well. And it's like, we want to now show you, like, this is the price that you should be paying if you want all this stuff. Like, I get that, like, we're keeping this price low, and that's something that we just really wanted to, I've really wanted to keep the price low. I feel like there's still a lot of hosts and owners that utilize us that are the individual people that are looking to make sure that, like, the cost low. There are a lot of owners that we go after that use our service. That $49 a month is a lot because they're elderly. Like, how do we make sure that the elderly get a discount? So there's things that we need to do internally to differentiate it.
Then you can turn a negative into a positive and say, well, I know that you initially signed up for our basic package. It sounds like this is a need that you have on a daily basis. Do you want to spend the extra X amount of money for our higher package? From a sales perspective, you just turned that negative situation to an opportunity for them to pay more.
1,000%. And that's exactly what we are thinking about, because it's like some of the issues that we get is you only took out one trash can. And it's like, well, you only have one trash can you're paying for. Do you want us to take care of the other one? It's going to be an extra upcharge. And they're like, okay, exactly to your point. And that's where we're just taking all these issues and all these different circumstances that come up and say, okay, how do we turn a negative to a positive? How do we give someone an option of saying, hey, do you want the Pro? The Pro comes with 2 trash cans. You got to pay this much anyways. Hey, yeah, the Pro probably sounds good enough for me because I have 3 trash cans. And I need the Pro, and it's like, all right, you're already paying extra because you already have 2 trash cans. And I know what happens. They go to sign up and they either don't see that extra can, $5, they don't check it, or they're like, they'll just do it anyways.
You don't necessarily have to go into a different market to increase the revenue of the business. Now you can focus on the markets that people are happy with, the service. And by tiering it, you can just work off of the relationship you already have with the person and give them more services that you're not offering, or more not more services, but maybe additional add-ons that they currently don't have.
Yeah, 1,000,000%. And then that's what's cool, because like right now they're all getting it anyways, and they just don't appreciate it, or they don't know, or they're not getting what we're offering because they want something completely different. And it's like, oh, we don't even offer that service. So at least they know, to your point earlier, what they're actually getting for the actual price. So they're like, why is this one $49 and this one's $69?
So your pricing power is going to be a lot less than the 4 or 5 bedroom house that is producing, let's say, 12,000, 15,000 a month. So people's perception of the value that they get out of the service is different from property to property, which actually leads me to this question. Your ideal customer profile, is
That's a
it
good point.
The property management company that has a portfolio of 50 properties? Or, is it that, that homeowner, for example, that, they just need service to their community and it just so happens to be on your route?
Both. They both play a vital position in the company, because I can't get started in a new market with a homeowner. I can get started in a new market with a property management company with a portfolio of 50 properties. But how many companies in a market have 50 portfolios? Probably only 2 or 3. So you're kind of capped, right? But you're not capped at the homeowners. So one serves a purpose for the other, right? And so I will say there's one market that we went into, the San Antonio market, that there were all individual people that signed up. And it was like 1, 2, 3, 4. They just all, like, someone posted on a Facebook group and they all just signed up. It was like awesome. So like we know that at one point in time, if there was a big boom somehow, I don't know what this Facebook group was, I wasn't a part of it, but it was like they all listened to each other. And it was like boom. Now like San Antonio is one of our biggest markets, and it's like crazy to me because I would never even thought of marketing there. And so you need both. I mean, there's a market that we went into where someone reached out and said, I got 15 properties. And I said, I can't do it with your 15 properties. Like, do you know anyone else in the market that has maybe 15 properties or 10? And he's like, you mean a competitor? And I was like, no, maybe more like a collaborator, like someone that would give you, like, has the same issue that you have. And then you guys both come together and I can service them. And he goes, I don't know about that. I was like, all right, well, let me know. 3, 4, 5 days later, he calls me up, goes, I got someone else for you. They have 25. So we have 40 properties. You can get started. I was like, send them over to me. So that's how we got started in that market. It was like 2 different companies that were competitors that worked together to give us the properties. So then it showed us what kind of business is out there that, you basically, someone says, I'll pay you for your service. And you're like, I can't do it, but go find someone else to help me pay. And that's what we're doing. That just shows you like what a need is of this. And so that's where it's like anyone can take the trash cans to the curb and back. I'm not saying they can't. Anyone can do it. Like our biggest competitors, like the kid next door, like who's doing it for $10 a week, for $40 a month. And then there's also the cleaners that give us the referrals because they don't want to do it, So, and that's the thing with us is that like we're the only ones that have the software. We're the only ones that have the technology in like 7 states. Yeah. Like in like 13 cities. And out of the 96, we were able to get started with 66. And it was like 4 or 5 different states. It was 5 different states in like 10 of the 13 cities. And what other company would be able to do that? There isn't none. There isn't none. And other companies that don't use us that are big, they do it internally, and they think that they're saving costs because they're having their maintenance guy doing it, but they're still paying that maintenance guy 50, 60 grand a year and is not doing the maintenance stuff because now he has to build a route every Monday, Tuesday, or they have to ask the cleaning company or the guest or whoever it is to take the can to the curb or make sure it's bad. Like, that's a headache. When really, if you just outsource it, if you just delegate it, if you just say, you know what, we're using this company CanMonkey, all they do is focus on vacation rental trash solutions. When you say yes to everything, you're saying no to something else. So if you're saying yes to taking all the trash cans out, you're saying no to fixing that light bulb, you're saying no to fixing that hole in the wall, you're saying no to putting the batteries in whatever it is. And we see this because we have clients with a lot of properties that say like they can't do that anymore. So we know there's pain points. We know that there's issues. And so look, we all, at the end of the day, it's like, we know we're not going anywhere as a company. We just hit profitability this year. We're at the new trajectory in our business, and it's a really good, feeling on our end because it's been like more like seeing light at the end of the tunnel and knowing that we, came through the storm. And so now we're really looking at our business like a business, and that's where we're really putting, the emphasis on the different tier packaging and different, markets that we can focus on and growing vertical. So I think we've done enough on our end internally of scaling the business, showing that it's sustainable, showing that it's scalable, showing that we can be profitable. The 3 things that, a lot of, people want to look at in a business. And with that being said, it's like, if anyone does want to, get into this industry of taking cans to the curb, it's like, it's open, and we open it to everyone because we love to get the name out there. Like, I love now when we go to a new market and there's other people there already doing it, because the longest time we were the first people showing people there's a service. And so now, and there was no comparison. And now there's a comparison to where when we come to a new market with a client and there's already companies out there doing it, now it's like, oh, you guys are $49. Oh, and you guys get all this other stuff. Yeah. It's like, yep. Like, I want to switch. So, and then now if you want to compete with us, you got to compete at price, unfortunately. At that low of a cost, it's like you're not really doing anything. So it's like, we're trying to see like how maybe down the road we can open up our application and see how, others that are, doing can to curb that can use our app. And maybe we just get like a little fee on the back end. And we want to see like how we can help out.
Looking at, have you guys considered, as you're building this, and I know this personally speaking, because, as you're building the business up, you're going day to day trying to solve issues, trying to find solutions to problems, and you don't think about the end goal here. And so what I'd like to know is like, what is your end goal in this? Is it to sell this? Is it to just build a really good business that you can continue to scale up? What's the end goal?
We went through a process earlier this year it wasn't like by our doing. It was more like the word kind of got out about CanMonkey around like some investors and some VCs found out, and there's probably like a 6-month span that we met with 50 plus companies, VCs, private equity firms, offices that were some offers that we were given, some valuations. It was a really cool learning experience, and that was really the first time I ever even thought about exiting CanMonkey. I think ultimately what we're building right now is very not just niche, it's unique. It's where we're at now also is like showing profitability, and it's like everything we have right now, it's like it's different. Like 2 years ago, if we went through that process and someone was like, we probably would have maybe done something different. Now it's like we come this far just to come this far. And my goal has always been like certain benchmarks, right? Like people saying like, I remember people saying to me like, you couldn't get to 100 properties. I remember people saying like, call me when you get to 500. I remember people saying, call me when you get to 1,000. Like I remember saying people like, call me when, like insinuating that like we weren't going to do it. And it was fucking hard. It was hard. The first 1,000 properties, I remember it was like 987 before our operation manager came on. We were just under 1,000, and that was Mark and I running it all in like 3 states, 4 states. It was hard, but at the same time, it's like we learned so much from that. And so that's where like now it's like if I had a cushy other office and I was just like kind of doing this is still like a startup phase, and we had those offers, fuck yeah. Like I probably would have like, we probably would have like, been done. The fact that Mark and I have sacrificed so much and put so much into this business, and just like been resentful, and the fact that not resentful, but like been like resilient in the fact that like it's been like a lot of we went through a pandemic. We went through so much shit to keep going through this. It's like now it's like the offer has to be enough to where it's like he's good with his family, I'm good with my family, and we're good. Because ultimately, like, we're building a monthly recurring revenue business. We're building something that we can have many facets on. We're not just collecting $49 a month. Maybe right now we are, but like down the road, it's going to be adding the pool subscription, the landscaping subscription, the post inspection, whatever. All these different things that now we're collecting 200. Like that's the end goal, right? That's what we're thinking. That's what we're looking to add on down the road. I'm not looking at the business right now. I'm looking now like, we just crossed the 5,000 mark. I'm looking at 10,000. At 10,000, now we're at like a 8 million ARR. We can even be hot. Now what are we evaluated at? And then at 10,000, I'm going to be wanting 15. Then I'm going to be wanting 25,000 properties. Then I'm going to be like, it's going to be more realistic because we're getting closer and closer. And if I ultimately my goal is to be at 100,000 properties. And so I can look at it as I'm about 5% there. Or I can look at it as like, shit, that's a long way.
It's a very recognizable brand. So in that sense, I think that you guys you're doing a fantastic job there. How has your kind of social media strategy and branding strategy changed since the beginning? What have you learned from that situation? Because personally speaking, I've learned like you need to put your face out there. You need to put your brand out there, or else it's not going to. Word of mouth is great, but if you're doubling down on putting yourself out there, going to the conferences, posting on LinkedIn, creating social media content for yourself, going on podcasts like this, that's where the long game is in terms of exponential growth.
And that's been my playbook. Exactly everything you just said right there. But like you have to get the brand out there. And if you're not getting the brand out there by doing the advertising and digital ads, you got to do it by yourself. So it was me doing it. Like I was the brand at one point. And then I was like, okay, I don't want to be the brand. I don't want it to be like, Alex, you never took my trash can to the curb. I'm like, I'm not taking your trash can to the curb. It's not me. It's like, it's like, well, you didn't do it. It's not me that didn't do it. Like, I'll figure it out. Like I didn't want to be the brand. So then it's like, okay, how do we get me away from the brand? How do we get the brand to be the brand? And that was been the goal going into 2023 was really like, okay, my goal in 2023 was to step away from, of course I'm the CEO. Of course I'm like going to be a face. I can't hide that. But how do I go like people know about CanMonkey without it being from me first? And so it went from, we spent a lot of money on some marketing, videos of me, of my face and me talking, and because that's what I thought you had to do. That's what, I saw other people do. And I think it's important. I'm glad I still have them. I still actually share them. I still utilize them because A, we paid for it, and B, it's still valuable, the information I'm saying. So I'm still going to utilize it. But besides that, like, I didn't like the fact that like, because I'm not that kind of person. I'm really not like, popular or based off what people think, like, I don't like being in the spotlight. Like I would rather be, in the back end. I don't mind doing it because I'm passionate about it. Like I love talking about, business and my business. And I love meeting with people that, share the same like-minded, thought processes. So in 2023, it really went from like, okay, I'm going to post on LinkedIn. I'm going to do a good job of, getting my voice out there, putting out whatever it is. I'm going to post every day. And that was really a goal of 2023. And I've kept that going on even to this year. But really with the marketing, I really just kind of like took what other people were doing and put my own little spin on it. And like the memes were like getting big, right? So like I would just like find a video that was funny, whatever. It could be no words. It could just be some songs and someone just doing something like silly. And it's like, how do I make this into something about CanMonkey? And I would just like screen record and like go to like Instagram, and like I just made a video like that literally my business partner sent me of like a trash can going crazy. It just got 2.5 million views organically, and here I am spending like $500 a month on like Instagram ads that get like 2,000 views. I'm like, what the hell did I do differently? But it's like one of those things that finally just caught on, and so that helped get some more eyes on the Instagram page. That brought us over almost 2,000 followers. I've been like trying to get to 2,500 for the longest time. So like there's things on my own to-do list that I'm not failing, but I'm not doing good at. That I would love to delegate to like an in-house marketing person, but at the same time, like we're just not there yet as a business. If I hired someone, then I'd go down on my profitability, then I'm back to like not losing money, but like back to square one. I don't want to be like that. I want to build it to where, okay, now we have this many properties, subscription, we have this much money coming in. Let's allocate this much money to digital ads and a salesperson. What does that salesperson look like? Is it internal salesperson? Is it someone that's already in the industry that already has connections? Did I already do a good job of meeting everyone? Probably not. Maybe they have no, so it's like it's still kind of figuring out what that demographic of individual looks like, what kind of, on that aspect of it, but really the growth has been like now like getting the brand out there. Like I don't want it to be any individual person. I don't want to be from someone else in the industry. I just want it to be like the brand's out there. So the memes help, getting just the brand logo out there. I'm just posting on things in the industry. I share things in other parts of like not just the vacational industry, but like in other parts, and like I share that as well. And I think it's just like staying consistent and persistent in any aspect of it. I know other people who do it, and I don't think it's annoying. So then I'm like, why are you telling yourself that? You don't think that person's annoying? So it's like I just try to like make sure I have a quick talk with myself whenever I have that like intrusive thought of like, what are you doing? And then I also have this other part of myself that says like, shut up, just do it. And then like I just do it, and then I've just been doing it long enough. That muscle thing you said earlier is really resonating with me. I just feel like I've gone through like maybe the whole day at like 4:30, like had a panic attack that I haven't posted yet. Like I've never had that feeling before, and I don't even post on my family. My wife be like, you don't post about the kids. I'm like, sorry, but like it's all about like the business, because like I've trained that muscle of you need to do this. It works. I don't know when it's gonna work. I don't know when something's gonna be good.
So there's this like YouTube creator, Mr. Beast. Mr. Beast now, I think he has like 200 million followers on YouTube. He gets hundreds of millions of views on his videos. And that dude's been at it for at least 10 plus years. And if you look at his earlier videos, there would be videos where he's like, in this video, I'm going to count to 500,000. And it's just him counting to 500,000. And he would post just consistently. As he progressed, he realized, okay, this is what works, this is what doesn't. And with that consistency, he got better and better and better. And then eventually, like, there are moments where part of it's luck, a part of it is like the type of content that you have, but there's a moment where it just goes boom. And it's those viral moments, at least when we're talking about content creation, that's where that consistency really counts. Because if you're not consistent with it, you're never going to have that opportunity where you have that luck factor. Thank you so much for being on the podcast, Alex. It's a pleasure to have you here. Though, for those of you that are watching that want more information on CanMonkey, Alex, give your spiel. Where can they visit you? Where can they follow you online?
Absolutely. CanMonkey.com is our website. If you're interested in the service or looking into what markets we're in or just seeing what the cost may be, go to our website, CanMonkey.com. Me personally, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, Alexander Shapiro, or Alexander Shapiro on Instagram. But on LinkedIn and Facebook, find me at Alexander Shapiro, and would love to connect with any of you guys. Even if you're in a market that we're not in and you're looking for maybe an idea of how to maybe figure out your solution, let me know. I've done that for numerous of people that said, hey, these people do it this way, or maybe even give them connections to other people in the market and benefit them that way. But I really appreciate you having us on. This was awesome, and it's always great to go back in time and think about how we got here, because sometimes we just kind of get stuck in it and forget, and it's nice to go back and feel gratitude of where we're at now. Thanks, man. I appreciate that.